Well, good morning. Welcome to the Heartland Partnership, and thanks to all of you for attending today. I'm very excited to be here today to talk about the Peoria Regional Scorecard here. I'm Mark Spenny. I am chairman of the CEO Roundtable, and I'm also chairman of the Heartland Partnership. For those of you who are just joining us, you're actually joining us at the end of the CEO Roundtable meeting this morning, our regularly scheduled meeting, to talk about the scorecard and share that with all the members of that group. The CEO Roundtable is made up of approximately 40 local leaders of our largest business and community organizations. It's the premier organization for our leading employers here in our community, and that group has been working over the past year to develop the regional scorecard that we're going to talk about today, and also to help fund that. We're very happy to reveal the results of the 2012 Greater Peoria Economic Scorecard today. It's been a major initiative of ours, as I said, and I want to thank the members of the task force in particular who have helped develop that. And speaking for that task force group, I'd now like to turn it over to Dan Daly, who's been a member, and he'll introduce the task force. Thank you, Dan.
Very good. Good morning, thank you. It's my pleasure to act as a spokesperson for our task force today. We really never had a chairperson, so I got drafted in. I want to thank the CEO Roundtable for funding this initiative. This has really been an interesting process. What we have done is to critically evaluate our region and look at how we compare to peer cities as well as to aspirational cities, cities that are doing particularly well, and how do we match up. Where are we doing well? Where are we not doing so well? So this is the first annual time that we've done this. This is something we're going to continue to do going forward. We're going to have others provide details of what we've done and where we're going from here. With that, I'd like to introduce our task force. Ross Black, Bill Cerrone, Paul DiGianardo, Scott Hedden, Marty Helfers, Dennis Keefe, Rick Swan, Dave Walty, and Jan Wright. And again, I want to thank all of them. It was a multi-month exercise and process with them and staff and other resources, and great job. And I think you're going to find this information very interesting and critical. We look forward to your feedback. With that, I'm going to introduce Dr. Larry Weinzimmer, and he's going to talk about how we gather this data. Larry?
Thanks, Dan. Good morning. Before we decided to develop the scorecard, we wanted to make sure that we could create the most effective instrument possible. We identified 12 different scorecards from around the country, identified best practices, and then from those we actually made some personal visits to some of the developers and designers of those other scorecards. What we found with all the scorecards was they were developed primarily on opinion, and what we wanted to do was actually create a data-driven scorecard based on empirical evidence. So we took a very rigorous methodology to create the scorecard, and it is objective. It's based off of data. We did identify 7 peer cities, and those include Rockford, Grand Rapids, Dayton, Fort Wayne, Quad Cities, and Chattanooga. And then we also identified 4 leading cities to compare ourselves with, including Madison, Louisville, Des Moines, and Omaha. At this time, I'd like to introduce Ryan Spain. He's the Managing Director of the Heartland Foundation.
Thank you, Dr. Weinzimmer. I'm here to give the results, and I have the task of taking about a 2-hour conversation that we had this morning and distilling it down to maybe about 10 minutes or so. So bear with me, and we'll get through it here. As Dr. Weinzimmer mentioned, we've established communities in which we compare ourselves to now. And we have 2 categories of those cities, those that are comparable in peer cities for us, and those that we aspire to be like. And as we go through the results, I think you'll get a flavor of why we chose some of those that we did. So the first category for us is a category called economic performance. And as you can see here, Peoria scores very well. We have an overall score of 132. And what this means, in every index, in each one of these pages that we'll show you, we have a national average that is indexed to 100. And if you're above that national average at a score of 132, that means you're performing 32% better than the national average. If you're below average, same rules apply. And so what we've tried to do is standardize the data, collect economic indicators, different data points like our gross regional product, like our unemployment statistics, and we've cataloged them here in a format that shows you overall how we're doing. You'll notice on each of these charts we have the 4 cities that are the aspirational cities. They're highlighted a little bit differently for us. So Madison, Omaha, Des Moines, and Lexington, Kentucky. Those are all leading and aspirational cities. They're a little bit bigger than us. They may have some other attributes like a major public university, but those are some differentiating characteristics that we use. Anytime that we look at one of these dials, pay important attention to the communities that are in this area. And it's a good thing to see Peoria performing way above the national average for overall economic performance. We have a very strong economy. Our gross regional product continues to grow. But look here at a community, Quad Cities. And Quad Cities is a city that maybe we don't, a region that we don't think about enough here in Peoria. But they're a major competitor for Peoria, Illinois. And we need to understand some of the best practices taking place in the Quad Cities and pay attention to the activities that they're doing, because we're really competing with the Quad Cities for jobs and for talent. In the category of people, our human capital, our most important asset as a region, again, we have a very good score, finishing in 5th place out of 12. And I think it's really important to note, you might think of 5th place out of 12 different communities as maybe upper middle of the pack, but look who's beating us. It's these 4 cities that are much larger, have some different attributes. And the first community that comes next on the list when you talk about our human capital is Greater Peoria. And so we're really fortunate that our people are very strong in this region. Now, there's still opportunities for improvement in this category as well. And one of the things that we've noticed in comparing, and if you look at the full document, you can really compare the age composition and the workforce characteristics of Greater Peoria and then reference against these other communities. And something major that we've discovered that we need to make some changes on and work towards improvement in the scorecard is how we better attract and retain young professionals in our community. If you look at young professionals in leading cities, the ratio that exists there is much higher than the young professionals as a portion of our workforce in Peoria. When you look at retirees in Peoria, the numbers change, where leading communities have a lower percentage versus what we have in Peoria. So we need to understand these numbers, and the ratios are really important. And I think as a region, there's a lot of work that we can do to make sure that we're doing a better job to attract and retain young professionals, thus moving forward this area of people in our community. The next category is innovation. And innovation is a great category for Peoria. It's something that we've spent a lot of time working on over the last 10 years. It fits into the model of the Peoria Next initiative, that it's really focused on technology businesses and startup organizations. If you'll notice here, Peoria scores a 71. Now that's a number that's below the U.S. average. And so you might think that maybe this isn't such a great category for us. Well, some of the numbers for a U.S. average are actually distorted in this category with concentrations of terminal degrees that exist in the mega cities like Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles. What's more important is to understand that we finished in 4th place in this category. And in fact, all of these communities down here that we're competing with are a significant distance behind Peoria when it comes to innovation. And we have a lot of things to be very proud about, particularly patents. Greater Peoria is number 3 in terms of patents created within our region, behind only Madison, Wisconsin, and Grand Rapids, Michigan. So patents are a really important mark of innovation, and it's something that's very strong for us here in Greater Peoria. This is a category we want to spend some time talking to you about. This category is called business and entrepreneurship, and it's the most difficult category for us, and it's the one that we have challenges and we need to make some improvements. Business and entrepreneurship is a category really measured by the composition of small businesses in our community and then the cost of doing business as it exists within our entire region. You can look at this score. We finished 9th place in this category. And so while we've had very strong results so far, business and entrepreneurship is one that we want to move forward. There's a lot of difficulty in doing that because the challenges that we have from a cost of doing business standpoint are largely attributable to the state of Illinois. And we hope this can serve as a wake-up call within the state that, again, and we've all had this message time and time again, but we need to continue working to improve the business climate in the state of Illinois. Otherwise, you take a community like Greater Peoria, showing strong performance in all these different categories, but we're really limited here in this category for the business climate in our state. Improvements that we can make here really will push this needle forward and will be helpful to us. The other thing we can do, because we can't snap our fingers and change activities in Springfield in one day, we can continue to work on how we promote small businesses in our community. There's a lot of opportunity to further the composition of small businesses, and we know that primary jobs are created in an economy largely dependent on what is happening in our small business community. So 2 big areas that we can use to affect very positive change in this category. Last but not least, our 5th category out of them all is a category that we call livability. And it's a really interesting category for us because it measures so many of the different things that make a community special and govern why someone lives where they do. And so if you look at livability, again, a great score for Peoria. We're actually beating one of these leading aspirational cities, and the results show why. We actually have finished first place in access and composition of healthcare in our region. And that might not be a surprise because we know healthcare is strong in Greater Peoria. But it might be surprising to know that it's stronger here than in any of these other 12 cities. And that's really something we can be happy about and proud of. And it's a key industry segment that we leverage. We also have measured things like culture, commute time, volunteerism. We've measured public safety by a marker of crime in our community. And we finished right at the national average in the category of public safety. But look at the community of Fort Wayne. And again, anytime you see one of our peer cities jumping up into this upper area of the dial register, we want to know what's happening. And Fort Wayne has made a lot of progress and made a major focus on public safety and crime prevention. And if you can see in the entire document, they actually have the #1 score in that category. So this is, again, very good results for Peoria, finishing in 5th place, showing that this is a great place to live, to raise a family, for a variety of the reasons that we've shown in the document. And then we can work to push this needle even further forward by attracting young professionals, by furthering the arts and culture in our community, and it will pay big dividends for the overall results here. So 5 different categories, 5 important takeaways for each one of them relating to how our economy performs, how we need to attract young professionals, how innovation really drives forward industry, what we need to do to improve our business climate, and then why this is such a good place to live. So the results are very powerful for Peoria, very good performance, really tracking right along with some of these major Midwestern cities, and we are highly competitive with all those communities. And if we can make additional progress in the business climate within the state of Illinois, we'll be even better positioned for future growth. With all that, I'd now like to introduce and welcome President and CEO of the federal companies, Bill Cerrone, and President and CEO of Heartland Partnership, Jim McConaughey. Both of these gentlemen will tell you, okay, so what? Now where do we go from here?
Thanks, Ryan. Good morning, everyone. As a business owner in the community, I can tell you I'm extremely proud. I think any time that you take the opportunity to benchmark, what you're really saying to yourself is, you know what? I need to look at myself very openly, and I got to figure out how to get better. And I also have got to look at myself openly and say, what do we do right? I do that in my own business. We run open book management. The reason we run open book management is because simple, real simple. Let's celebrate where we're good. Well, let's go out and ask questions on where we can get better. Let's go ask the best of the best. We are very, very courageous to do what we've done. We are very, very few, too, in terms of marketplaces. So as a small businessman investing in a marketplace where we're willing to be open and to ask those questions, I can't think of a more exciting place for us to do it. That's really the super positive that comes out of this. Doesn't matter whether you're a public entity, academia, or part of private industry at this point in time. Anytime that you can benchmark and anytime that you can have a common agenda in terms of what you should be working at on parallel tracks and on a convergent track, that's extremely important. So I believe in terms of what's next and what are the next steps, it's up to each and every one of us to read thoroughly the scorecard, to see where our strengths and where our improvements are. Where are we strong, but where can we get better? Where are we deficient? And how do we go and look at the market makers and talk to them about that overall improvement? That's key and fundamental. Should give us a common agenda to work with across all of our sectors together. And when we do that, then we're going to have an extremely positive movement in the community. I want you to look towards the back of the criteria that you have there, and you're going to see where, as a parent, there's an offer of engagement to make sure that we stay engaged with education. As a corporate citizen or as a corporate leader, making sure that we stay engaged in terms of recognizing the opportunities in the community. As a small businessman, invest. And as a public servant, find a way to pave the way for innovation. And that's key. And this should be the beginning of a very, very exciting journey for all of us. And I want to introduce to you the gentleman who has been at the root of this, has helped pave the way at this point, and who will be behind us as we go forward and try to improve the community by asking the basic questions and putting the process in place. Mr. Jim McConaughey, thank you.
Okay, so we'll close it out here pretty soon, and I just have to tell you that this has been an exciting project on two fronts. One is it's a little bit controversial. The information that comes out of this is kind of thorny. It shows the things that are not always rosy. It talks about some of the stuff that we do very well. It's a charge to action for the community. It's a way that we can actually start to think about improvements over the next decade or next 5 years that will help us play in the big league and become aspirational cities to many of these other aspirational regions to the rest of the country. We studied, as you heard before, a number of scorecard type activities throughout the country. We believe this is the best. It's statistically reliable, has PhD economists looking at it. It's a very valid document. All the additional depth of information is available to anybody if they'd like to have that. It's a little onerous. It's several thousand pages and 700 or 800 additional data points. And I think we did 65 additional cities in addition to the ones we pointed out here. But it's a broad soup of information that allows you to get to a more digestible piece of information that helps us understand what is really working and what we really need to work on. I encourage the community, the broad community, to participate in this. We have a website, greaterpeoriascorecard.com, greaterpeoriascorecard.com, that has all this information available to it as a download or as a visual on the computer. So this is not just a printed document, it's available on online as well. We also want to let you know that there will be questions that are raised out of this, and we're open to that. We're encouraged by the idea that this does not have all the answers. In fact, it just asks all the questions. And there's going to be a number of groups beyond the Heartland Partnership, a number of areas that are interested in trying to solve some of these areas. It is a Greater Peoria regional document. There's not any one city that's called out. There's not any one, it's an MSA population. So we're grateful that the staff had the tenacity to stick with it, and that the task force had the ability to sort of put the information in the right buckets. And our friends at IBI had the ability to make it visually understandable so that all that data could be consumed. And now we're really looking for the public to get involved in any way that they'd like to help advance our community. We've been very thoughtful in the idea. In the year 2000, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, this community was known to be on the move. And now we have some statistical evidence to tell you that we're really in the game. So I want to thank all of you for your participation this morning. Look forward to the dialogue as we do our strategic planning throughout the region for economic development and all the other functions in order to advance us into being one of the aspirational cities throughout the country. And I want to thank your participation.